No desire and no intention to impose our form of government on anyone else.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today, we are broadcasting live in the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Also broadcasting live on social media, and this show is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association. I'm your host, Ryan Stacey. I'm a licensed private investigator, and as the Director of Investigations for the Experiencer Support Association, I use my investigative skills to dive headfirst into the hidden mysteries of UFOs, paranormal activity, and consciousness phenomena. Thank you for tuning in. Lisa, I see you already said hello. Hello, Lisa. Good to see you. Chris, good to see ya. Good to see ya. I hope you had a good nap there, sir. Working hard this weekend. All right, so 60 is in the chat. Only two of you have, seven. Only two of you have commented. Please comment, like, say something so I know you're here and I can shout out to you. All right, let's get started with the Tessa News.
Tessa News and updates.
Okay, so there's not too much this week, pretty much more of the same. The newsletter is due. Chris did his parts, just need me to do my parts. Today is a civic holiday here in Canada. I don't know how many people, if there's any holiday anywhere else on this day outside of this country or province at least. But today is a holiday for us. So back to the normal grind tomorrow. The newsletter will go out shortly, hopefully this week, with a recap of everything that we've had so far. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can go to the website, experiencersupport.org, and just scroll all the way down to the bottom, or until you see the little pop-up that usually pops up there, pun intended. You can sign up for our newsletter. It is free. We do send a recap out every month in case you missed some stuff. It's growing. We're adding more things to that. Apart from that, I'm also working on a media kit for those that are interested in getting some sponsorship. Just that's in development. It's not finished yet, but it's almost done. And all that I have really left to do, besides cases, of course, is I need to complete my data sets for the UFO reports, which I rebranded to Escape from the North, or Encounters from the North, which I talked about last week. So 2022 and 2023 needs to be done, so I'm getting prepared to do that. I just need to have shuffling the deck right now. I need to have certain things in place in order to have the time to do that. I got, Today is a civic holiday, Christopher. It's Ontario. You should know that. Why am I telling you that? Anyways. So that's it for updates for the most part. I haven't written any articles this month, unfortunately. We don't have any other writers who have submitted any work, so there's not going to be any updates. So I'll take that time to let you guys know that if you guys are interested in writing for us, you can. If you are a writer or would like to start up becoming one, we'll do the editing, we'll do what we need to do to help you to get your voice out here. So we are looking for writers. Okay, so send an email to admin@experiencersupport.org. Put it in the comments here for you. Sorry, my air conditioner just turned on. How loud is that for you guys? Can you guys hear my air conditioner? If so, I will turn it off. But it's a million degrees in here. Okay, and that's it. The only other update really is, I'll say it again at the end of the show, is tomorrow night we have Jake Perry on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. The topics is writer, director / chill. Christopher, you got to pick topics that are relevant to the subjects, either UFOs, paranormal, or consciousness. Those are the ones we need to see. If you don't have one, then ask me. Those aren't good topics, but hopefully it's a good show. So tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. season 6, episode 30. Can you believe that? And I'm on episode 13 of this first season. I cannot believe how far we have gotten here. Okay, so I think that's it. Let's get into the system. In today's episode is called Astral Travel and Beings Observed. So let's segue. I guess off-world travel. It's psychogenics and esoteric, and it's also, this particular case involves beings that are observed. So I'm going to start with the psychogenics and esoteric part, and then we'll segue into the beings observed.
Psychogenics and esotericism.
Okay, so if you go to the website and click on Visual Evidence Database, you will find this database that I am referencing. You can uncheck all of these things that aren't relevant. So for today, I'm removing all of the manual markers that I put in place. I have nothing but cases left, and I just have to find where this case is. If you guys have any questions, please comment. Let me know you're here, or just say hello. Oh, Chris, you can hear it? Okay, I'm going to turn off my... Oh, just turned off. I'm going to turn it off. Okay. Okay. It's off. And then I'll get rid of that. Jill, hello, Jill. Thank you. We got your email. There was a response sent. I don't know if you responded back. I didn't see any this morning, but just letting you know, we saw your email. Please get back to us. Thanks for coming back. So, where am I here? Hello. Okay, so, where am I? I think this is where we are. Yeah, aerial activity here, beings observed. This is the case here. Okay, perfect. I've been out of the off. So Jill says she did respond this afternoon. Perfect. I checked this morning. I won't be checking again until tomorrow. And so I don't know if it's been forwarded to me yet or whatnot. So awesome. Well, hopefully we'll give you something tomorrow. Okay, so this one I had a hard time deciding on what to do, because sometimes some cases can be classified as more than one in my ultraspectrum classification system. Some of these cases that I've gotten combine things. They haven't been splitting up, and the experiencer themselves are unwilling to do multiple reports. Let me talk about that for a little bit. So the reporting system is designed to ask certain questions in a certain way to draw out facts and important measuring items, so that way we can determine quickly what the object is or what category it's in when we're doing the work. Then at the end, you explain the detail of the event, and usually that explanation is a summary of all the stuff. And because when you make a report and you get this huge summary of what's going on, we have to take all that information out and put it into categories. Like, this is theory, this is an opinion, this is belief, this is fact. And usually fact is very, very small. And when you're expressing your experience, a lot of times it's driven by emotion, it's driven by belief, it's driven by all these other things, and we don't really get far too often logical explanations. However, there are ways to extract logic and fact from the emotional reports. It's just challenging. It's hard. So the way the system is designed is to extract the facts first, and then you can provide all the other stuff at the end. The reason why I'm telling you that is sometimes the experiencer doesn't want to go through the extra work of making more than one report. So what they'll do is they'll choose the best thing that fits, and then we have to break it up separately. So this case that we're about to talk to is an example of that, where it can be categorized in multiple things. But we were unable to separate that because the experiencer, rightfully so, didn't want to make a long report, make 5 different reports when they've already done so. And we understand that. I'm just using this as an example that it's a preference. if you decide to make a report, that if you have a psychological effect, being observed, aerial activity, all in one experience, it's important that you report those experiences separately. It takes more time, but you get what and I want quality over quantity, if that makes sense. I would rather have, and the system is designed, and it may also discourage some people from making reports because you have to answer questions. You might not have them. If you don't have them, just say you don't have them, and then we'll help you find it. It'll be a little bit easier for us to work with. But don't be afraid to make reports, because I need this information. Because if you don't give me the information that's asked in these reports, I can't do anything for you. Okay? It's very important that it's structured this way. All right. So this particular case, it has a combinations of categories, but we're going to break it down. I just want to kind of use that as an example. So I played the psychogenic video, even though that this is labeled beings observed. It's confusing because beings were observed, but that is the main element that's being focused in this particular case. The events have to do with astral travel. Possibly in a dream state, we don't know. I'm pulling this from memory. This is also from 2019. I do remember this case, but I'm just speaking in terms of the system. Okay. I see a like there, Nancy Thames. Good to see you. Thank you for the like. Hello. How have you been? Please comment. All right. So I think I don't need to explain that anymore. So let's get into this guy here. You guys have any questions around that or feedback? You think I'm out to lunch, or you agree with me? Like, feedback is also important. I'm just talking head today. But please, any feedback, even if you think I don't want to speak for every experiencer. I'm just trying to explain that there are different types of humans and can't please them all. This was one of those cases where we were such a fabulous case in terms of like evidence. Well, not evidence, but descriptive and things that were seen. But sometimes it's unfortunate that the extra time isn't spent on doing that. And actually, in the future, what I would like to do, Chris, if you're listening, once you free you up, I'll be getting you to call experiencers and take these reports for them to make it a little bit easier for them. But right now, we don't have the time, and we certainly don't have the budget. But that is coming. Okay. And speaking of budget, don't forget to support the show by clicking on support disclosure on Patreon, or going to patreon.com/eattheworld. I'll put that in here for you guys. Every little bit helps support the mission. And that's how we keep this program and other programs free for you, experiencers. That includes Experiencers Anonymous, which is this at the end of the month. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So this one, 2019, classified as beings observed, humanoid, bipedal. So I'm going to play the beings observed video.
Beings observed, intent unknown.
All right. So here's the video here, and I'll just play it, and I will narrate for the radio. So we have this circular room with this triangle-shaped wall, I guess multiple triangles. It says, on February 26, 2019 in Alliston, Ontario, Canada, an experiencer dreamed, that's in quotes, of quotations, astral travel, end quote, to a facility unknown to her. Okay. And then the next slide. Same background, except I believe we add to this here. She recalled seeing these beings before breathing in the quotation air, end quote, from this device. So I'm just going to pause it once the last dude is drawn. So we're going to leave that paused here so you guys can get an idea. So this device in her hand. These are beings that were observed, hence the humanoid classification. They do appear to be human. NASA was, on the badge here, so we don't know if this is actually NASA itself. or if it was some sort of astral travel, right? Because we can't tell where the mind goes. Are we seeing? I can't say we can't tell. It's just it's difficult to determine that where the mind goes and what space and time and location it's going to, unless we can verify with other information. So if a base like this exists somewhere, I need somebody else who has witnessed something like that and to come forward, and then we can compare and contrast. But for all we know right now, during this astral travel, this was visualized. Is this something? It could be. Is it nothing? We don't know. All we know is that this certain experiencer has had a dream of some sort, and it very well could just be a dream, but it might be reality. Let's continue here. So this is a witness drawing. And then, let's see here. We could just draws the guys again. I think we're just going to ask if we've seen these people, right? Yeah, after inhaling the quoted air, the experiencer woke up at home in bed. So the assumption is, or the belief of this experience is that this is real, and they were seeing something, woke up in the middle of something, took this quote-unquote air, which could have been gas of some sort, and passed out and woke up in their bed. So there's no evidence at this point to determine whether or not they mentally left their bed or physically left their bed. That can't be proven or disproven. So to shed some belief on the fact that the experience did take place, this is why it's labeled beings observed, because this is something we can focus on. Maybe these beings have been observed before. They look pretty normal for the most part. Okay, this is the skeptical sleuth. But I mean, this, let me go back here. Wearing this type of uniform, faces like this is common. Could be NASA, could be a dome of some sort. That's even here on Earth or on another planet. We don't know. And this definitely looks like a hazmat suit to me. So this is still an experience, okay? Even though it's not woo, it's not a ghost or an alien, it's still something. You go to sleep, or you're in this state, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, and you see these things happening to you, it's terrifying. And those need to be looked at as well. As realistic as this is more likely of there being a government secret program working on people when they don't realize it. That is more probable than the extraterrestrial scenario, or based on empirical evidence that exists. Now, if you've seen it and you believe it and all that other stuff, I'm not trying to take that away from you. I'm focusing on tangible physical evidence that can be used in the court of law. Okay, so it's very likely in this scenario that these are humans in this particular case. But why are these humans giving her gas of some sort, quote unquote? I'm calling it gas because of the assumptions. Why are they wearing this stuff? Why is this experiencer seeing these things? Was it a movie? Was it something they saw? All that stuff gets ruled out, of course. And then I'm left with something that's unusual. So this one I liked because it's like the secret space program, which is a part of the phenomenon. All right, so let's get into the witness statement. If you guys have any questions or comments, so let me know, please. Or say I agree, nod your head somehow. I need some validation. The following events were described during an assumed dream state. Okay. I was at the experiencer is stating on February 27th, 2019, that I was at a facility. Then I was taken on board a spacecraft, and I was then in space. The spacecraft then traveled into what I believe was another dimension. I have seen another Earth, and that looked just like ours. Something went wrong. I was then brought back through a pod-like spacecraft that could only fit 2 individuals per pod. We were sent back to Earth through some form of interdimensional space travel. So this is the witness statement. Taking this into consideration, the next step is to do what's called a statement analysis. So Right off the bat, the witness says the following events were described during an assumed dream state. So that I know is my editor's note, but this coming forward is what the experiencer said. So I was at a facility, then I was taken on board a spacecraft. That is why I would ask for an aerial activity report, because I need a specific report about this spacecraft. But this experiencer did not do that for whatever reasons that they had at the time. And I was then in space. So we now have a location for that. Spacecraft then traveled into what I believe was another dimension. So there's belief here. This person believes it was another dimension. We don't know that, but it's a belief. It's possible, but how do we prove that? We can't prove that with the evidence that we have in this particular case. But that's also lends to the credibility that it's probably something that happened here on Earth, or at least in our space. That's likely. Can still be another dimension? Of course it's possible. You guys see Deadpool yet? Deadpool 3 with Wolverine? Reset the timelines. That's a thing. But how do we know that? Actually, before I came up here, I was having a very good philosophical talk with my wife about the Akashic Records and how that works, and karma, debt karma, and all that other stuff. So I was challenging that quite a bit. But maybe we'll talk about that later. So, and also I'm pickling beets. I'm canning beets right now. Cooking beets all day. Dropping beets all day. Pun intended. Anyways, so I have seen another Earth that looked just like ours. So if it looks like your Earth, it's possible that it is the same Earth. However, this experiencer believes that it's not. And we have to acknowledge that. Even though we can't prove it, we still need to be courteous to the experiencer's belief. So even if you're the experiencer of this case, and I'm talking this way about your case, please understand that I'm trying to talk about it in different perspectives. When we report back to you, we will cater to you as an individual, but we're looking at it on a whole. There are certain things that need to still remain challenged. Okay, so it was brought back through a pod-like spacecraft that could only fit 2 individuals per pod. We were sent back to Earth through some form of interdimensional space travel. So this was also an assumption that it was interdimensional. But what if it wasn't? Lisa says, seeing is believing. Yeah, and you know what? I'm biased to that because I haven't really seen any of these things in my reality, but I don't ignore the fact that it's possible. That's why I investigate. I believe that something's happening. I just don't, I have to point out, Jill Leonard, thank you for the like. I have to point out these things when I'm doing my investigative process to figure out what facts and evidence I need to conclude, or what's missing. What can we get? But these things very well could be real. And because I can't prove it, that doesn't mean it's not real to the experiencer. Okay. So some of you might look at this and be like, oh yeah, it's just a couple people at NASA, and then blow it off. But there's more than that, right? We have astral travel of some sort. And if you believe that astral travel is possible, like Jill, who I referenced last week, we were talking about CE5. That email had to do with assisting or collaborating somehow with her efforts and what we're trying to do. And hopefully we can make that work to some degree, or at least start somewhere. That CE5 movement, or HIC, depending on what you want to call it. I call it psychogenic activity, using your mind with the intention of having a reaction, is astral travel in a sense as well. So this phenomenon exists, but it's in our mind. We cannot measure that yet unless we're hooked up to a machine. And usually those machines are, government, right? So who can you trust? So there's a lot of things in here that we can't prove, but does that mean it doesn't exist? Skeptics are quick to dismiss what they can't prove. I am skeptical, but I'm not an idiot. It's possible. There's not enough evidence for me to say this didn't happen. Right. And so that's what makes this case very unique, and why it's on the website right now, because I'm hoping to find others that are like it to make this a little bit stronger. or maybe rule this one out, and then I have to take it off the website. That's not being something I wouldn't do. So now we have astral travel, the travel through space, interdimension. Doesn't matter what time it could be. It could be our time. It could be space time. It could be any time. Flat Earthers don't believe space exists, so there's even that, right? How do we know? The constant that's happening here is that this person was in some sort of meditative sleep state of some sort, whether it was intentional or unintentional, and they visualized this activity. Assuming that it's true, that is terrifying. If it was astral travel and she was observing something that happened in the past, present, or future, that's equally concerning. There's an ability there. Perhaps it's precognition or retrocognition, however you say that word. Looking forward, looking backwards. All those things are possible. But how do we treat the experiencer in the moment? Right? We need to validate. We need to let them know that we're going to look into it. And we don't have answers. And is this experiencer continuing to see things we don't know? What else this person can see? This person can see stuff in this moment, but I'm curious as to what else they can see. And of course, they make more. I encourage them to make more reports, and we keep track of that. So here's additional notes here. Okay. While in the facility, the witness was wearing a yellow suit. So these are my notes. Okay, so for the language. Other individuals were seen in the range of 100 to 150 who all looked younger than 30 years old. Okay, so that's about 100 and 150 feet away. The witness mentioned that there were about 20 people wearing blue suits. So that would be this blue suit here. The facility was dome-shaped and metallic gray. So we saw an example of that in here. This is the interior. We do know that these structures exist here on Earth. Like dome structure on Earth. I can even say that. We've seen a lot of visuals. The technology exists for us to make things like this. So if we can make it here on Earth, we definitely could make it on the moon. If you can land on the moon. Flat Earthers don't believe that the moon is solid. It's plasma-based, and that's possible too. If you guys believe the moon landing actually happened, well then, or if you don't, for those of you who, ask yourself, is the moon actually a solid object? So that's a whole different can of worms all there. But, these are likely things of happening, which means this event may have happened. And it's terrifying. A young black, or the mind is pulling things that are normal from a movie that they've seen or experiences that they have. That's possible too, but you got to prove that it's not. So a young black male explained to the witness that NASA has been sending test subjects into space to study interdimensional space travel. We've heard those things before. There are many people talking about that. Has this experiencer, so this experiencer is not talking about anything new. But this is just currently her experience. Where did she get the idea from? Is it from another experiencer, or did she actually experience it? The second person in the return pod was a young black male. This male mentioned to the witness that returning wasn't as easy and that it hurt. There was a red flashing light in the pod prior to the pod traveling fast. Extreme pressure on the face was felt. The pressure was also felt on the body. So there is some, assuming that this is true, this is the experience that was described. Has anybody else been involved in the secret space program or anything of the like? Nancy, I know you're familiar with something like that if you're still watching. Some of this stuff might resonate to your experiences. Right? So it's possible, but is it likely? That's where you got to get to when you conclude on these things. All this is known science, some of it, well, not all of it, but most of it, can be reproduced here on Earth. Minus even with the G-force, which is probably what the pressure of the face was, or the body. That can be tested here on Earth in the labs, NASA labs. So maybe she astral travel to a base that's on this planet or in another space. The plane was described as unbearable. Again, looking at the psychogenics or looking at the psychological aspect of the experiencer, the constant is this person is able to visualize these vivid things when they intentionally try to do so. That makes them, a very powerful experiencer if what they're seeing is true. It could be imaginative. It could be made up. It could be art. It could be a figment of their imagination. That stuff cannot be ruled out, cannot be determined until I have more people make reports of the same thing, and then I can compare and contrast your statements to figure out what's real and what's not real. So the pain was described as unbearable. She heard quotations initiating protocol B3, end quote. It might have also been D3. A bright white light was seen. Then the witness started to see past memories of her childhood, both positive and negative. Immediately after, the witness recalls seeing herself back in a pod, seeing lines of all different colors. The witness felt like being inside a tunnel. The witness described shooting out of the tunnel and then coming to a quick, slow movement with Earth in front. Now, this is very descriptive. I've never had an encounter like this. However, I've seen a lot of movies that describe space travel. It's possible that the idea came there, but I don't know for sure, so I still have to believe the experiencer. As a skeptical sleuth that I am, I can't prove that. And both places have to exist here in order to balance the equation. Then you also have to look into the idea of space itself. If the flat earthers got it right and that there's no space and there's a dome on this planet, then she didn't go to space at all. But where did she go? Somewhere. Remote viewing is something that we can do well, focusing on objects here on the Earth. So this is how complex the phenomena gets. Why you have to study the experiencer, study the experiences, and then measure, how these phenomenons affect these people. And that's my big study that I'm working on as well. Let me see here. Also, we got some chat today. Lisa says, my mom and sister seen Angie as well. Interesting. Yes, and remember us having conversations about that. I'm not quite sure if any of the reports have come in yet. Still part of my pandemic batch, which I have to get to after I'm done my reports for the UFO phenomenon. But I do recall us talking about that, Lisa. Jill says, I've experienced the quote tunnel, end quote, several times. So is that through astral travel, Jill, that you've experienced this? Like in conscious, like awake, you're not sleeping? Because then that's interesting. It's very interesting. And there's validation too. So just because this other person has experienced something like this, that doesn't mean that they experience the same thing. It's just a similar way to describe the symptoms of whatever this was. We're going to relate to whatever we can that's closest to these experiences, so we can feel safe and try to rule it out. But it just could be the experience of the mind traveling. And I've had similar things like that. I have to do a full disclosure on this, but I'm not gonna talk to almost 70,000 listeners about my recreational activities. But if you read between the lines, there are some times where you go to other places, and I could say that relates to a tunnel-like feeling. But is that reality, or is that mind-altering substances that cause that? Right? Or does it help you? Does it help you get there? And that's where this really gets complex, where I have to write papers and books and stuff to explain all these things. I can't really get into that in a 1-hour episode, but that's just another example that we have of this three-dimensional aspect of the phenomenon is just scratching the surface. And yeah. Anyway, so when other comments here. Lisa had said, my mom had an encounter with Angie earlier this year, a visit. Yes, thank you for changing your word. Visit. Good. Encounter kind of sounds negative. Jill says that is through meditation. OBES. I'm not quite sure what that means. Obvious? Meditation. OBS? Conscious. I don't know what you're trying to say with the OBES word. Consciousness and awake with visuals. So that's interesting. So if you're able to do that while awake and you feel that and you would explain that as moving through a tunnel, then that provides validation to this experiencer. Hopefully that experiencer is listening to this podcast one day and get some validation from that. That doesn't mean that this scenario that she's described has happened. This is just what our mind. Oh, you put a plural on it. Of course I know what OBE is, out-of-body experience. Duh. I feel silly for asking that, but because it wasn't capitalized and there was an S at the end of it, it looked weird to me. Okay. Sorry. Not sorry. Canadian. So out-of-body experience, of course. Okay, through meditation, astral travel. And you do use the other language, HIC and stuff. So you're beyond there. You're there. I apologize. I think OBE or out-of-body experiences was another term that they were trying to use more than astral travel. But that's, again, coming to the classification system. This is a good segue to go to that. Let me go, where are we at? 5. Holy crap, this case is taking the whole show. That's good. So if we go into the ultraspectrum classification system again. No, don't do that. I don't want to lose my my spot. I'll open it in a new page. Just because you're here and we're chatting about it, I've often tried to battle those archetypes of astral travel and out-of-body experiences and use a term that doesn't that is universal. So when you say out-of-body experience, you are making the assumption that you've left your body physically. When you say astral travel, there's the assumption that you're traveling astrally. It's possible, but do we actually know where we're going? Okay. So I've tried my best I put in psychic ability, where is it here? Remote viewing, out-of-body experience, astral travel or astral projection, another term to use or adjective for that, is in this category for psychogenic. And psychogenic is anything that uses your mind. Is it an external effect? So when you use your mind, did you see something externally? So a CE5 could be an external effect psychogenically if you are able, and that would be intentional because you're getting together to do these things. That would be your main category because you used your mind, you asked for something, and there was a direct, immediate result. Internal effect would be an example of astral travel because it's if you believe it happened inside of you, in your mind. But it also could be an external effect. So that's why I have hybrid. You've used your mind, you know you're projecting elsewhere, you're spying on your neighbors. You know, some people, hey, why not? You got a superpower, use it, right? Spying on your neighbors. And then, but you know it's happening inside your head. So therefore it's hybrid. And that is the way that, you know, we can remove some of these labels and focus on the fact that there's something about you that has the ability to get to this space, which I call the ultraspectrum, which is also known as the ether, which was on the periodical table a long time ago, but they took it off. Look that up. So that's where I sit with these terms, but I don't want to stop the experiencer from using the terms that they believe it to be, because that helps me understand their belief. They believe in this stuff. They believe in mediumship. And what is mediumship? Well, that could be drawing from the ether, drawing from consciousness. It could be all of these things. But we all need to agree that this activity has to do with the mind. And the mind is what needs to be studied, because then that will give credibility in whether or not the person actually did any of these things or has the ability to do these things. We as human beings do have this ability, But are we awakened? Are we asleep? There's so many complex things that we need to look at. But those are judgments. And I can't make those judgments without investigating some of these things. And again, I'm going to have to write books on this to explain this in great detail, to prove why I know this and how I come to these conclusions. But I'm just trying to give an overall thing. And again, if this is your experience, I'm just using this as an example because it's in front of me right now. I do appreciate your experience, and I'm not saying it didn't happen. It's an example of how complex this is. So that's where we're at with that. Jimmy, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. I also see a like from you. Thank you. And Dana Kapitov, thank you for the like as well. He says, would your neighbors, colleges, friends treat you different if you were chosen to be the one to release the info that UFOs, the crashes in MIB, and all of it are real? Okay, well, we just did a segue here. Would my neighbors, college friends treat you different if you were chosen to be the one to release the info that UFOs? Okay, so their opinion of me doesn't matter, for one. But would they change? That's up to them. That's really who am I to tell them how they're going to feel? So likely they're going to change in some way, whether they're for it or against it. So a change is proven or is given. The likelihood of me giving the information to release on UFOs, like I'm giving information, I've been given lots of information. I'm sitting on thousands and thousands of documents. I just don't have the manpower or woman power, the help to assist me in trying to do this the way that needs to be done for a criminal investigation, which is how I approach this phenomenon, because I'm an investigator. I'm trying to figure out who, not what, who is responsible. Is the government connected to it? Then good, I can focus on the government and get somebody arrested. I can do that here on Earth. I can't arrest a being that's from thousands of years away or light years and all this stuff, wherever they may be. But if I can figure out where they are, then maybe I can send the police out that way. But then that's a lot of heat. That's a lot of attention. There's a lot of things. There's things when you do, like in the PI world, there's a lot of questions that I could ask people, but I got to be careful that I don't tip them off that I'm being suspicious or that I'm looking for something. And in the astral world, or the ether, the ultra spectrum, there's like a heat score. So you can imagine, being a being of light in a realm of darkness. So when you use a seance or we get into paranormal side, where you're using a Ouija board or something, or some other method in order to call on a spirit. You have good intentions, but you don't know what door you're opening. You're a beacon of light in a sea of darkness. So there's lots of things that could happen. Now, I'm given information. Have I gone through that information? Have I been given the smoking gun? I have no idea. On the account that I don't have time to do all the things I got to do in a day, work, pay the bills, and do all the stuff in this world, and then have this, have all this other stuff. So I'm going to use that opportunity to say, if anybody wants to volunteer or contribute in some way to assist with uploading documents and getting these things transcribed the way that I want it, you send an email. You holler and say, I want to do it. And if you can do one a week, one a day, one a month, one a year, that's better than me not doing any. All right. I do need the help, but we don't recruit. Understand that. If you want to join, you ask. And based on that, we will have the right people at the right time for the right reasons. Okay. Jill, you're in that process. You reached out. We're having a conversation. If we can make it work, we'll make it work. And it's not because of anything, whether it jives. And that's the soul contract. If it works for us, works for, and that's just another example there. So why me? Why would I be given this information? Maybe I have, but maybe that if they're real for what? Like that's a really complex thing, because there's lots of documents that I've looked at that heavily suggest the possibility, but it doesn't confirm. And when you get, and that's why this visual evidence database is very important, to measure all of these things, because we can see patterns. But here's the thing, is I have to ask the government for, okay, look at my time here. I'll answer your question, but I want to finish this case before I finish up here. You got to look at the government here. And this is a good question, by the way. It threw me off track, but I'm trying to answer it for you. The government has the information. We as the public have the right to ask for said information, but that information is reviewed before it's released. So if I get anything that is a smoking gun, they want it to be released, and they will give it to whoever needs to do it because they choose to have that released. We just have to ask for it. So we need more people asking for the information. But in real time, I know that there's a team of people in Canada that are looking for the information, and I ask for the information as well. And I get parts of the puzzle that are different than the pieces of the puzzles that they were given when they asked for the same thing, because we all know the event happened. As an example, we all asked for information about the Chinese spy balloon that got shot down and crossed over Michigan through the borders and whatnot. Everybody asked, but I was the one that got the document that identified what it was. They all asked and they all got their documents, but they didn't get it. Why did I get something different? Well, maybe the person that looked after their request didn't know where to look. Maybe the person that processed it, that was working that day, decided not to give that information. Or maybe the journalist that was asking for it was being a bit of a pain. I can remember I'm on radio, and the person decided not to give him anything. And they gave it to me because I was nicer. Or I got someone else who found it, or that information came on later on. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons why we're getting it. But the constant is it has to go through a person that gets reviewed by the person, other people, and then it gets sent to you after a decision. So I'm not going to get anything they don't already know, that they don't already want to make public. But my voice versus a journalist's voice. A journalist can get it in front of a lot of eyes, but they have a spin on it where they want to make it negative. They need to make it negative, because if it bleeds, it leads. Perhaps because I'm doing a podcast, I don't know, they got dirt on me. They got, I have a pension through my army, so, they can pull my pension. Maybe they got some leverage in case I go rogue, or maybe it's the way that I deliver it. We're all giving that information. That's assumptions. I don't want to toot my horn, any more than I have to. But there's that human element. We can't forget that humans are involved in this. Humans are covering it up. Humans are also protecting it. It's the why. Getting into the flat earth topic, if there's an ice wall, fine. If there's a dome, fine. Doesn't matter. I want to know why there's a dome and why we're not allowed to go there. That's my question. It's the why. Why is it there in the first place? But there's still humans involved. They have to protect it. And if they know the why and they believe the why, then they're going to do these things because they could understand it. Maybe, still on the flat earth topic, there's been science that shows that if they break that glass dome, that we're going to flood because we're underwater. That's a good enough why for me to, create SpaceX and all of a sudden partner up with NASA after I hit the freaking, we're talking about, I'm trying not to go down a rabbit hole, but I'm clearly in it. This rabbit hole should be good for another episode, but I don't want to get in there. But I got to get back to this thing here. Jill says, good answer. I hope that was something else, not before I start trailing off here. Lisa said, I find it interesting how people say I look like Angie in some ways. What do they see interesting? Well, the extraterrestrials could have been made by us, could have been made by other people. They could be us in the future. I mean, we were made in God's image and likeness, right? Who is God? It's very possible. Jimmy, is AI helping you and others to find the truth about UFOs? Well, I don't know how AI is helping me. AI helps. We use AI all the time. This is an artificial intelligence platform that I'm on. If I go and type an article, I use Grammarly. That's AI. It helps me spell better or say things differently. Like AI could essentially help me find UFOs, but it's not going to have the answers because the government puts the internet out there. So as soon as it can have access to all the information, then maybe it can help me get to stuff. But Jimmy, every time you come on the show, you make me feel like I'm the one. I'm not Neo. I'm not the Matrix here. And I appreciate your support, but I'm uncomfortable when you put this pressure on me. I'm just a guy doing stuff like everybody else. Okay, I have a different way of doing things, and I don't think I'm going to get the smoking gun. But I do think that what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, and the team that is behind me and with me, in front of me, wherever you want to be, everybody that's working for the Tessa mission, we're all part of it. It's a team goal. We have aces in places. Okay, I'm a master of a lot of things. I'm a jack of all trades. I know how to do a lot of things, but I'm a master of like absolutely nothing other than building cases for court. We'll say that. All right. Let's get back into it because we got 5 minutes here and I want to finish this case here. So here's the original drawings. And I always like when the experiencer is gifted in the arts because it creates a lot of detail. And it's always interesting too. So yeah, we don't have a face. Do I need to see the eyes and the nose and the mouth to know that this is humanoid? No, not really. But, it's helped with the facial structure to give me an idea with the shape of the ears in comparison to that is likely a human being. And what was important was the uniform. The tie stood out for some reason, probably because it was weird that this was open and that there was a suit underneath. Who knows? Obviously, the breasts are important to identify that this is a female. Did they not have hair? Maybe. Or maybe it just wasn't focused. Did they have blank faces? Maybe. I don't know. It just wasn't what was prominent on the experiencer's experience. But you get into details like this where the pants are tucked into the boots. I always find that stuff interesting. And then you have these gloves that are, this gives me these details as if it's a hazmat suit. If you look at a hazmat suit, which you all know, you've probably seen it in your mind, it looks like that. But there's a very specific one. I remember finding it. It looked identical. I wonder if not identical. Yeah, this is it. This image here I used in my research to show a very quick similarity between what this witness drew. I hadn't seen a hazmat with this type of, this isn't common. In terms, when you type in hazmat, right, you get all these other visuals. So this is a very specific type of hazmat suit that's used for a very specific job. It's called a flash suit. Okay. So when you get interesting things like that, that's what kind of makes you go, And obviously we've seen a gas mask like this that comes from the dentist's office and all those other things. So where are we at? 3 minutes here. So let me use the last little bit to go through the specs here, and then I'll wrap this one up. Ultra spectrum. Experiencer report. Already in survey. Investigating reports what they wanted. ID is number 3, female. Blood type is unknown. Eye color is brown. Age at the event was 26. Only one witness because it's in the mind. Okay, but that doesn't make it weak. It's just we have to understand this is a mental experience, right? And by mental, I mean psychogenic. Please don't cancel me. Everyone's I'm just sorry. I'm worried when there's so many people listening, and I just don't want to offend anybody. But I'm trying to also be be me here. So it was a positive feeling. So that's good. Maybe because they thought it was a dream. Who knows? No injuries. That's also good. Event date 2019-26, report date. So this is gold. The report date was 1 day after the event. So this information is fresh in the experiencer's mind. If you can remember to make your report after it happened, that would be ideal. But 9 times out of 10, we're going to find a gap in time. And there's many reasons for that. Many reasons for that. And the more time it takes in between the time the event happens and the time you make a report, evidence is lost and contaminated. I'm going over time. I think I got like 4 minutes of like grace period here, but I'm going to take it. Time of event 4:30 in the morning. It lasted 240 minutes. So that's about 5 hours or something like that. Night ongoing. Seen 3 beings. So objects in this case are beings. 3 beings were observed. Previously reported third party wasn't involved. Analogical evidence. So we just have the drawings. Beings observed, humanoid, type 1, and the archetype is agents. So this is, could be the unidentified experience, mental experience. This is the first time we're seeing that in the show. Uninvited level 2 evidence is type A. And that's where we're at with that. So there we are. Okay. So time flies. Yes, Lisa, it does fly. We'll be sending you a picture with my next report next month. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Keep putting that in there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do annual reports for this ultra spectrum report because I have 4 years to go back and study because of the pandemic. So if I have enough cases, then maybe I'll do a small series, but I might just do this one big internal, big startup, call it the pandemic version or edition, and just get a big case study of the cases that I have up to date. And then just do an annual update as we move forward. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I apologize for those that are behind on cases. Chris says, amazing show. Thank you, sir. I felt good about this one. It's a little bit better than what I've done in the past, but that's because of you guys. You guys showed up. You guys asked some questions. You guys turned me down on the deep end, and I got a little woo-woo there. But if that's what you want, then show up. Ask your questions, Jimmy, at the beginning of the show, not at the end of the show, because you have great questions, and they bring me down these rabbit holes, and I love it. All right? And there's so much more that I want to talk about, but I only want to talk about what you want to talk about. So please comment, share. Even if you watch this on the replay, tell me what is up. I'm here for you, not for me. All right? So make a report, all that stuff. Join the Patreon. Remember, podcast tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern time with Danny Whitson, comedian, magician, and sometimes Chris when he needs to fill in. So thank you all for tuning in for this episode of The Skeptical Sleuth. We are broadcasting live in the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Network, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We're also broadcasting live on social media, and this show is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association. Got some comments here. We enjoy hearing from you. Thank you, Jimmy. Great. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. But I got to go. Okay, remember, one lie is enough to question all truths. Okay, that's why I do this. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky. And as always, heed the world. Peace. See you next week.
If you want to really, really find out about Ryan, ask him about all his work and UFOs in Ontario.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada.
I have used his research extensively. He's much more than a one-dimensional character. He's an authority on UFOs and investigating them, Meg.
Wow!
really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. For starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them.
He would come out with an annual report on not only the number of sightings, but how many were unexplained, unknown, or just, nothing could be said. What caused
it? If you
it?
want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.